The Bobby Gavaskar Trophy has come to an end, and with that has come to an end India's hopes for a third consecutive series victory on Australia, as well as a spot in the final of the World Test Championship. It's a period of mourning for India's Test cricket, not just because we lost the BGT, but also what happened before that. And to discuss this very important period of Indian cricket, which we are going through, all of us, I have with me a dear friend of my channel, the SNS Cricket Diaries, Mr. Sucharit. Thank you so much, Sucharit, for being here.
It's always a pleasure to be on your channel. It's a wonderful platform to express ourselves.
Sucharit, I must say he's one of the most enterprising persons I have met. You can go onto his Facebook and see the kind of posts that he puts. He's very passionate about what he does, and it's his interest is not just related to cricket. It's his interest is also extended to nature, to photography, to traveling, and some of the videos that he does is amazing. In fact, I must say, Sucharit, I think you should do a lot more than what you do.
Yeah, yes. A lot of people have told me that, and I think I'll do that. 2025, I hope I'll be doing more videos.
Absolutely. And Sucharit has also penned a fantastic book called The Great Leveler. I will put the link of the book for buying in the description of this video. So please do log on to that and to buy a copy. So, in fact, Sucharit, I mean, if before we start, why don't you talk a little bit more about the book so that people get an idea what the book is about?
Oh yes, I've been writing fiction since 2004, and some of those were short stories in 2004. My debut novel came out, and my latest novel now is called as A Great Leveler. It's espionage fiction. It's a spy thriller, and the plot talks about a very unique weapon of mass destruction. It's not nuclear, it's not atomic, chemical, biological. It's not any of the weapons that we are aware of. It's something extremely unique. And when I spoke to the experts, they thought that theoretically it is possible to create such a weapon. So basically, I wanted to make people aware that this is a possibility, and before it happens, we should all become aware. And if possible, we should try to stop it from ever being born. But in fiction, in my book, I have assumed that suppose such a weapon is finally created, and there is a possibility that it will land into the hands of a militant organization, then
Mhm.
all hell will break loose. This weapon is such that you could be sitting in one country and press a button, and a city in another country could be completely destroyed in a few minutes, literally killing all the people there. So it's very scary. It would be a colossal tragedy if that weapon ever comes into being. And two Indian Secret Service agents discover that there is a possibility that this could be used against India. Now, thankfully, all the details, the structural, the technical, and all details of creating this weapon and making it operational are held in one particular machine, exclusively developed machine. So somehow they want to get their hands on that machine and bring it to India so that it can be placed in front of the Prime Minister, and we could tell the world fraternity that, see, someone was trying to create this, and let's stop it before it gets created. And then most of the book is more like an action film, so they try to steal that machine, they manage it, but then they lose it again. And the story travels from Pakistan to France to Italy, then it comes into Middle East. It's kind of a ride, a roller coaster ride. And there are militants running after them to kill them and get back the machine. There's also a professional assassin from England. His name is Winchester. He's also paid to get rid of these two Indian Secret Service agents and uh, grab that machine. And it's all about whether these militants eventually get that machine, whether they are able to create that weapon, and if they are going to finally succeed, then which city they are going to target in India, and what would the Indian Secret Service agents do to stop all
Wow.
this madness. So,
Wow.
briefly, without revealing all the twists, that's briefly
Wow.
the book all about.
Wow, great. So Charit, I would like you to please let me know the Amazon link for it. I'm going to put it in the description of this video so that
Okay.
people can go and have a look at it and buy it.
Yes, yes,
So,
I'll do that.
from weapons of mass destruction, let us now go to weapons of self destruction. That has the Indian cricket, I guess, somewhere that would be apt to talk about. So, firstly, Also, before we move ahead, please do watch. I'm going to put the link for the an earlier video that I did with Sucharit Rajadhyaksha about Indian cricket, about Mumbai cricket, about Maharashtra cricket, about cricket in Pune and his experience. It's a fascinating story out there. So please do watch it, and you will get to know more about Sucharit through that video as well. So, without any further ado, Sucharit, let me get straight into the crux of the matter.
Yes.
Here, India lost the Border Gavaskar Trophy for the first time in 10 years, 3-1, after losing to Australia in Sydney. And so, what has been your impression now that 2 or 3 days have gone on? What is your general overview of the series?
Overview has been that it was quite disheartening. We have been dominating Test match cricket for such a long period of time since 2014. If you watch Test match cricket, India has played. We were always good at home, but we had started to win abroad, even in some of the Sena venues, as we call them. And I think the first big jolt came even before the Border Gavaskar Trophy when a team came here, New Zealand came here, and they blanked us out 3-0 at home. That was absolutely shocking. I think that also had, I mean, the players may eventually tell you that no, it did not affect them that much, or they don't allow one series to affect another. But that kind of a loss from New Zealand at home, I think somewhere the morale did get a bit of a hit. And on that background, they went to Australia. Now, we all know that Australia is a tough assignment. It's not easy for any team going to Australia to just go there and straight away start winning matches.
Mm,
Now, with an overview, I would say one of the biggest errors probably on our side was many people are talking about lack of planning. Well, maybe that was the case, but there were not too many practice games that they got to play, and then they directly got into the Perth Test match.
yeah.
Now, the surprise was that we won that first test match in Perth. I think that should have given them a bit of a psychological boost. And they should have told themselves that okay, that means we are here to win and we can win. We are coming back to our winning ways. And sadly, that did not occur from the next test match onwards. I think there are in an overview, we should say that there are two or three things that went against us. Uh, First of all, they must have created plans. You don't go to a BGT like an event to Australia without any plans. So I don't buy the story that they did not have any plans. They had plans for Travis Head, for Smith, and what they're going to do against Cummins and Stark, etc. But somehow the execution of their plans did not really materialize from the second test match onwards. The second part was that we fielded decently well in this series. It was not really bad fielding, but
Mm,
just those few lapses in the field
mm,
were at such crucial moments, like that Jaiswal dropped catch, that it really hurt us a lot.
yeah.
So, although those were just a few lapses for a long series like this, they came at the very wrong moment.
Mm,
And that hurt us a lot. And I think eventually uh, the bowling did eventually depend on just one man,
mm,
and the others were just not supporting him as much as they should have, they could have. Because the other bowlers also do have potential. We have seen Siraj doing some wonderful things in the previous series in Australia, so we were
yeah.
expecting him to reach up to that level of bowling and do some real damage at the other end, which did not happen. Ashwin played just a test match. In that also he could not pick up wickets. Washington Sundar was not picking wickets. So that happened, and eventually, last but not the least, in the overview, I have to say that the batting looked only good in patches
Mhm.
and only good for these one or two guys who played well in those particular moments. But other than that, overall, the batting lineup clicking, that never happened. And
Yeah.
it was very disheartening. It's there's nothing more sad than India losing in this manner.
Yeah.
If we lose a closed test series somewhere and all the games go right down to the wire, I think we would still be happy. Although there would be a touch of sadness that India lost. But the way they have lost some of these matches, the last test match, hardly
Yeah.
day three, and you lose the test match, it's very disheartening.
Yeah, very well said, Sucharit. So now, sort of dissecting into each of these test matches. Firstly, were you? What was your reaction when the squad was announced? Because we were taking in, three spinners in Washington Sundar, Ashwin, and Jadeja for a tour down under. and then our bowling was quite thin. I at least I thought that with only Siraj and Bumrah and others not being so experienced. Do you think that somewhere India made an error in not picking maybe an extra batter or an extra fast bowler in their squad instead of one extra spinner?
Definitely. The selection, that's where we got it a little bit wrong. That means literally off the bat you got it wrong.
Mm,
One thing that really came to my mind was you are taking two off spinners there. Is the Australian side loaded with left-handers that you need two left off break bowlers
mm,
at the same time in the squad? I have a question mark on that. Okay, but maybe Ashwin and Sundar have both done enough to deserve a place. But then we were also handicapped by certain injuries. Like Kuldeep could have gone, but he was injured. And always remember that in recent times, Bumrah has been doing exceptional things at one end, but do not forget at the other end, the other exceptional guy that we have, extraordinary pace bowler that we have, is Mohammad Shami. And
mm,
he being not available, he not being fit, really hurt us a lot. And so the selection was, yes, a little dodgy, a little, maybe one spinner too many for an Australian series. And if they had to take a spinner, I think a wrist spinner would have been a better idea, because a wrist spinner can at least create a few moments even on
mm,
tracks that are not exactly helping
mm,
spinners.
mm,
So any good wrist spinner, if Kuldeep was not available, someone else like Chahal, maybe they could have tried. And the best would have been to carry one more pace bowler, and that would have made a big difference in selection matters. I'll say this very frankly, and I've always been forthright, so I'm going to say it. KL Rahul, Shubman Gill, these are guys, they have been given lot of opportunities so far in test match cricket, and apart from really placid flat decks, I have never seen Shubman Gill giving you a big 100 in his excellent extraordinary style. So that means these are not really guys who you can depend on in pitches in Australia, where there's good carry, bounce, and there's going to be seam movement. Over there, you don't expect them to do a lot. KL Rahul did click a couple of innings, but nothing other than that. So he was inconsistent, and Shubman Gill, he gave nothing during the series.
mm,
And so selection matters, yes. And secondly, we know the kind of errors that they did when they were actually batting.
Yeah, we'll come to the batting in a while, Sucharit. But just sort of sticking on to the selection, not just of the squad, but also of the playing 11 in various test matches that we saw. You know, we started with Washington Sundar in the first test as the main spinner. Then we had Ashwin in the second test. Then we had Jadeja, and then in the last two test matches we included both Jadeja and Sundar. And and when you're including two such spinners who you really don't have too much of penetration on those pitches, plus a Nitish Kumar Reddy, you practically having three players who are neither full time bowlers nor capable batters, in the sense that of course Nitish Kumar Reddy did get 100. Washington Sundar did get a half century. Even Jadeja scored 77 in the third test match. But then they were all taking place of either one extra bowler, a full-fledged bowler, or a one full-fledged batter who could, from whom we can demand a 100. You know, we cannot demand 100 from a Jadeja or Nitish Kumar Reddy or Washington Sundar, even
That
though
is
Reddy did get it. So I think somewhere, the dependence on all-rounders or bits and pieces players instead of specialists, did that also cost India the series?
It did. And if you look at the pitches they were offering, there was no way they were going to offer you a turning track. Now, observe very carefully that even on Australian side, Nathan Lyon has not done any great damage during the entire series.
Mm.
He was playing all test matches. He got enough to bowl, but he has not done any great damage. That means
Yeah.
a spinner as capable as Lyon, who has been bowling on those wickets all his life, and he
Mm.
has done really well in Australia
Yeah.
at home. But even he could not do a lot. I mean, he could not trouble the batsman too much. That means the wickets were just not there for spinners. And the ones we had, like you said, they did not show any kind of penetration at all. When if the wickets are not supporting, if they are not turning, then some of the spinners, they come up with some other ideas. They'll make the ball instead land on the seam. Maybe they will get it to jump so that
Yeah.
you get those bat pad decisions. But that all did not happen. That thinking did not look on the field functioning at all. So Jadeja never looked like he's going to pick up wickets. Washington briefly looked good in bowling, I'm saying, but then again he went a little flat. And if some of the bowlers, I thought they were just trying to restrict runs, like in limited overs cricket. The kind of bowling Nitish Reddy was doing, sometimes I felt like he's trying to just restrict the runs rather than
Yeah.
picking up wickets. So it was a rather defensive mindset also.
Yeah, in fact, even I mean, you talk about Washington Sundar and Jadeja's bowling. In fact, they didn't even get to bowl that many overs, and
That's
that sort of made is what made me also feel like, I mean, if they are not being used enough as bowlers, then we might as well have played a batter. So,
And
I
then
mean, that was.
are we saying that they were taken they were taken in those particular games as specialist batsmen? Because they are not that good to be considered as specialist batsmen.
Yeah.
And they are still bowlers who can bat decently well. And if you're taking them in the 11 and not giving them enough overs, then that's a lapse on part of the skipper more than the
As
coach.
well as the coach. I mean, I would like you to talk a little bit about Gautam Gambhir at this point of time, because we are talking about, decisions made off the field, and that's where probably the coach has to be questioned, because no matter how much we talk about coaches on the field, it's the people or it's the players who have to do it. But off the field is where the matters of selection of not just the squad but playing 11, the whole well-being, the mental well-being of the cricketers is what the management, the coaching staff is responsible for. So where do you think somewhere Gautam Gambhir, how do you see his tenure so far?
Um, it's a little early days, but what we are seeing so far, I think it was captured not just Gautam Gambhir, but overall about the coaching staff. The gist was captured really well by one of these interviews that the great Sunil Gavaskar gave after the series, when he did question the coaching staff, and he said, "What were they doing? If your bowler, let's take the case of Siraj, if he's leaking a lot of runs, and we know where Travis Head is very strong, especially on his feet, especially if you bowl short to him on the legs, and you're doing exactly that over after over, and he's hitting you for boundaries, then okay, the coach cannot enter the field and give instructions, but I want to tell all your viewers that before the match starts, during the breaks, and there are many occasions when the coach gets to converse a lot with the players. I think the role of the coach is to create a decent plan with the help of the skipper and some of the senior players. Then the role of the coach is to motivate all of these guys to make sure that they execute that plan to perfection. And last but not the least, if there are any glitches here and there, because the other side is also making plans and they are also trying to execute their plans. So sometimes your plan may not work, some drawback here, some polishing required there. Then the coach is required to tell the skipper during the lunch break, during the tea break, or at the end of the day's play in the team meeting that, look, skipper, these are the two errors we did today. Tomorrow you cannot repeat those. Let Washington Sundar have a nice spell of 7 8 overs from this end. Let XYZ bowl from the other end at the same time. So these small tactical and strategic decisions, sometimes they need corrections as you go along. And all of that we did not see from Gautam Gambhir so far.
Hmm.
Gautam Gambhir has done really good coaching at the IPL level, and we know that he has shown that he can do some really good stuff. But let's understand, IPL is a different level of cricket, a different format of the game. When it comes to Test match cricket, so far, Gambhir's record does not look very pretty.
Yeah.
Losing 3-0 at home against New Zealand, and then this series, it's really going to be an uphill task for him as a coach now.
And what he said that really infuriated me, Sucharit, at the press conference when he said that this is, I'm talking about before the Sydney Test match started. So the pre-match conference, press conference, he came and said that uh, I was asked before the series started that going into the fifth test we would be 2-1 down and we have the chance to make it 2-all. I think it's a very good position to be in, is what he said. I mean, for a country like India to which has won two BGTs in Australia, I think that was not the kind of statement that we expect from an Indian coach. Because that's not what we expect us. We now expect our team to win. So, and while I understand that we cannot win every time in Australia, that just shows the kind of incredible success that we've had. That we have been the only team to have beaten Australia twice in succession after so many years. Of course, South Africa did that thrice, in fact, in succession at the turn of the century. But then, not many teams have come and beaten Australia. So, but still, I think what Gautam Gambhir said really sort of made me feel very sad that that was the kind of thinking that he had.
And what he should have realized is whatever players you have been given,
Hmm.
finally that's the squad you have to work with. You have got a assistant coaches, you have got a guy on the video analysis, you have got a statistician, you have got the mental conditioning coach and everyone there. You have got a team to work with. You have to put these players through their ranks in such a way that at least, I'm saying at least, they could have eventually come out with a 2-2 draw in the series, and we would still have said that Gambhir has done something remarkable here. But no, that wasn't visible. In fact, like you said, in one or two press conferences, he was, I think, unknowingly, inadvertently showing his frustration, I think his irritation. And that's
Right.
why the media immediately picked it up, and they thought that everything is not hunky dory in the dressing room in there.
Right.
Maybe these are things that are not coming out, but those meetings, team meetings, might not have been really very friendly and in cordial environment. And that again is a lapse on the coach's part. He's supposed to maintain the environment where communication is open and people feel very comfortable to sit in a team meeting and discuss their ideas. I don't think that has happened. And yes, Gambhir did show once or twice in press conferences that he looks a little frustrated with so many defeats back to back, the New Zealand series and this one, 2-1 down, and he looked really irritated. But as
Yeah.
a coach, look, you're taught all these things, how to present yourself in the press and what kind of face you should put up in front of the public. I don't think Gautam Gambhir has picked it up a lot, really well, because many times in front of the general public or in press, he looks like a person who is not really at peace with himself. So on many
Mhm.
occasions, he looks quite irritated.
Yeah. We'll come back to Gambhir's future towards the end of this podcast. So, Sushrit, taking this podcast forward and talking about the Indian batting a little bit more in detail. Um, so of course we know about Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli's form. Virat Kohli's form, especially in the last 5 years, his averages have dropped down. Rohit Sharma has had a terrible season so far. Um, all the other batters also except Yashasvi Jaiswal haven't really sort of basked themselves in glory with their performances. So, what do you think has been going wrong with the Indian batting, especially since that New Zealand series, and and just in general over the last 3 4 years, our batting has really looked fragile, Sucharit. So,
Right, right.
what do you pin this on to?
And there are two or three factors that I would like to talk about on this exact point. Um, if you look at the overall picture, of, say, last almost couple of years, I've realized that the youngsters who are coming in, they don't look very confident. They are not backing themselves in their defensive technique, first of all. Maybe they are homegrown on a lot of T20 stuff or 50 over games or whatever the reasons may be. That's another issue again, but why this is happening and what are the causes behind it. But they don't look very confident in a compact defense that you can offer over after over, which you need to do in Test match cricket. There are many occasions when you just have to play out a session,
Yeah,
not give away a wicket. Even if you have just scored 40 in the session, it doesn't matter. But then you need to have a very compact defense and you need to be confident that I can defend myself for the whole session. And since that confidence is not there, I think some of them mask it by going into attacking strokes, because somewhere in the deepest part of their minds, they think that if I keep defending, I'm anyway going to get out.
yeah.
Might as well score a few good runs, maybe a couple of sixes, some boundaries, and I would at least notch a 50. So the aggressive mindset is coming maybe out of their lack of confidence in their defensive technique.
Mhm.
Secondly, if you look at Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, the two cases, I sincerely feel that these two cases are different. They need not be compared. Okay, both are veterans, both are senior players, and both are batsmen. Beyond that, there is no similarity. Because My firm belief is that Rohit Sharma is an exceptional, extraordinary player for limited overs cricket. His technique,
Mm-hmm.
his temperament, where he needs to score a lot, he cannot go on defending session after session. All of that is wonderfully suited to the white ball cricket. You can observe that is where he really does well. So not just right now, but over the last few years, I would, if I was in the selector's position, I would have given him that confidence that you work only in your limited overs format. That's where you are the king. You're a champ. So we want you there, and that way he could have elongated his career further also, because that way he would have remained more fit. He would have got slightly lesser number of matches to play during the year, all of that. And he just doesn't have a technique to succeed in Test match cricket on venues like Perth, like what we had in Sydney. In fact, if you look at his overall stats in the Senna venues, South Africa, England, New Zealand, and Australia, sometimes I even will include Senna, W, that is in West Indies also,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have a great track record there. It hovers between poor and mediocre, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So it, and he has had lots and lots of opportunities to play there. So his case is where he's not, he doesn't look really a great batsman in Test match cricket, three slips and a gully on a wicket that can support bowlers, where there is seam movement, where there is a bit of carry, maybe a lot of pace in the wicket in those situations, or maybe there are clouds up there, and he
Mm-hmm.
looks all at sea. So his
Mm-hmm.
case is that of someone who is literally fish out of water when it comes to Test match cricket at Sena venues. His good knocks in tests have come on flat decks, either in India or in conditions very similar to India.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the point that you make is quite correct. And I just want to bring out a bit of the stats here for Rohit Sharma in Sri countries while you mentioned that, Sucharit. So in Australia, he's played 10 test matches now with a high score of 63
Straight.
at an average of 24.
Yeah, absolutely. So he has shown that he can play absolutely everywhere. And at the moment, let's say last couple of years at least, that that slightly outside the off-stump corridor of uncertainty, as we call it, when he plays there, he looks a little tentative. So Virat Kohli case is just of a particular technical
Yeah.
issue that has
No,
now come.
yeah, Suchit, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was trying to give the stats for Rohit Sharma in Sena countries, since you mentioned about Rohit Sharma.
Yes, yes,
So in Australia, Rohit Sharma has played 10 test matches with a score of the highest score of 63 not out, at an average of 24. In England, of course, he has played 7 test matches, again averaging 40 though, which is decent, with that one century that he scored on the last tour, 127. Then in New Zealand, just 2 test matches, an average of 40. In South Africa, 6 test matches, average of 16. So in Sena countries, he's only got one century, that is in England. So
right,
of course, what you say really brings home the point, that in Sena countries he hasn't done that great.
exactly.
So
So
yeah.
that was one case, and if because if Kohli can work on that part,
Mhm.
maybe he gets back to the drawing board, goes to the basic coaches that he had, who have given him the instructions to come up to this level. Maybe they have got some ideas, and he practices that, and he irons out that he could still be. He's very fit. He's
Mhm.
supremely fit. Virat is extremely fit, and Rohit is not that fit. So that's another big difference between them. So with Virat Kohli, you expect that for a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years, he could give you some really good test match knocks and give you big wins also. But with Rohit, it doesn't look like that at all. So I still feel that Rohit should not be playing test match cricket. And Virat Kohli, if he irons out that, he sorts out the issue that is just occurring outside the off stump, I think he can. He still has a few good tons inside him.
But Sucharit, my point is that with Virat Kohli, yes, mostly this narrative is that Rohit Sharma should be out, Virat Kohli should, even Ravi Shastri. I mean, he was very ludicrous in his statement when he said that forget about the shot. He was referring to Virat Kohli's in dismissal, in I think in Sydney or Melbourne. So he said that forget about the shot that he played. He still has 3 4 years in him, And when it came to Rohit Sharma, he was, I think, in his own words, he was trying to say that Rohit Sharma should be on the way out. So while this narrative is there about Rohit Sharma should retire now and Virat Kohli can have, but even if you look at Virat Kohli, Sucharit, I mean, for a champion batsman like him getting dismissed identically 8 times in a series, not trying to work on his mistakes, and it's not just this series, it's been over the last 4 to 5 years, especially post pandemic. He has just not looked the part. At one point of time, he was among the top two in the Fab Four, I think, just behind Steve Smith in Test cricket. But then now he is way behind Williamson and Joe Root as well. I mean, look at where Joe Root has gone. Kohli has just scored 3 centuries in the last 4 to 5 years. So, on what basis? I mean, do you think that fitness, just fitness, gives him the license to play for another 2 to 3 years?
One part is fitness, and the other is when he's playing, even those 30s and those 40s that he's making, uh, he still looks like he belongs to Test match cricket. He doesn't, except that one particular error. He's not looking very tentative. He's groping for the ball. He's not getting on to his front foot. ऐसा कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है. So he's really going in with some degree of confidence. I think it's only that outside the stump line where he's a little tentative. There also, you must have seen that he leaves a lot of them right now. So maybe 20, 25 balls where they're feeding him outside the off stump, we leave them. And once he thinks that his eye is really in now, he goes for that one, but a little tentatively, and he gets that nick to the wicketkeeper or into the slips. So my point is, A, fitness. B, he still looks like he belongs there. And see, he has all his track record is such that he has done really well in Test match cricket at various venues in the world. He could do something like, look at the 241 of Sachin Tendulkar for inspiration. When Sachin realized that he was getting out a little too frequently on the back foot, cover drive, and the square cut, he decided that even if they feed him really short ones, long hops, he's just not going to go for those strokes. And if you look at the wagon wheel of that particular Sachin Tendulkar innings, that 2 of 41, you realize that less than 5% of those runs he scored in the area of third man to extra cover. The rest, everything, he just did not play that stroke. That's called determination and self control. So if right now Virat Kohli is just finding that particular ball a little difficult to handle, let it go. Let as many balls as they bowl you there. Let them with Test match cricket. You don't have to score 26 runs in 2 overs. So I think he should work on that, and maybe a couple of years you could still get Virat Kohli giving us some good knocks. I was very hopeful because even in this series he started with 100. It was a good 100, and but then it again fizzled out.
I think because of the fact that he failed in subsequent innings, people now think that that 100 was sort of a fluke, or it came well after the 80th over of the Indian innings. I mean, he came into bat well after the 80th over, and I think the majority of the bowlers he faced were part timers, especially towards the second half of that innings. I mean, he was facing a lot of Labuschagne and Nathan Lyon and even Travis Head, and also. I mean, I guess if he had gone on and had a good series like Steve Smith had, made a couple of more centuries, probably people would have looked back on that 100 as probably the turning point. But it was not to be. But okay, I take your point. Although my personal opinion, Sucharit, is that I think he should also now be on his way out. I don't think he should be on that plane to England series. But let's see what happens. Now we come to our bowling now. We had, of course, we talked about Nitish Reddy's lack as a fourth bowler, sometimes even as a fifth bowler. In fact, I feel that towards the end of the series, he was playing as a main batter. But just with Jasprit Bumrah, how do you rate Jasprit Bumrah, Sucharit? I mean, I think this series just marked his entry into the greatest of the greatest bowlers.
He's into the elite now. Literally at the moment, the if you look at the active Test match cricketers, I don't see any pace bowler in terms of quality coming right up till Jasprit Bumrah. There is Cummins and he's really good, and there's Stark, and in some of the Test matches he really makes the ball talk. Yes, there are a few others also. and there is Rabada in South Africa. And I understand that these are really, really good bowlers, very difficult to play against. But Jasprit Bumrah, you give him any sort of conditions, Indian wickets, Australian wickets, he's always getting into the wickets. You know, the thing I have realized about Jasprit Bumrah is, fine, he has this awkward action and he's very difficult to read because of that. He has this very lethal one that comes in viciously, and it becomes really tough to even keep it away from your wickets. Understood. But over the last few years, if you observe, the one that goes straight and the one that goes away from the right hander, he has developed such knack of bowling those in exactly the right corridors at the right length that today the bats, earlier maybe 6 years back when people were playing Jasprit Bumrah, they would say take care of the one that comes in and you're safe. Today they can't say that because okay, three, four, five balls will come viciously in and you will defend them, you will pat them to the mid wicket to square leg, and then same length, and the trajectory in the air is almost the same. You play it because you think it's coming in and it just holds its line, takes the nick and goes to the keeper or goes to the slip. This is deadly and
Yeah.
at really good pace. He's not coming into 120s. He's still up there in terms of pace. So that's extraordinary. There are one or two things that I still feel Jasprit Bumrah could do. He has an extraordinary Yorker. And he bowls it really well in white ball cricket. I think he should use it more in red ball cricket also. And another thing that I have seen Jasprit Bumrah do very rarely is bowl those bouncers which go past your eyes and nose. I think he can do that a little more, especially on tracks like Australia. But yes, he was absolutely exceptional in this entire series. He now comes into the elite. In what I mean is, I can take his name now in the line of Curtly Ambrose and Walsh and Bob Willis and Imran Khan and all those guys. You know, he's come to that level. If there's one cause for concern, if there's one worry about Jasprit Bumrah, it is only, I think we all know that, and that is fitness. His action is a little awkward. It is always going to put a lot of strain on his back and his groin. We all know that. Michael Holding pointed it out in his debut series. Jasprit Bumrah was playing his first series and Holding pointed it out. And I think he was proven right. He has broken down quite a few times so far. He has had a couple of very, very big surgeries. He has come out of that, and you saw that in the last Test match. He again had to be go for scans. He did not bowl in the last inning. I don't know what would have happened had he bowled on that track in the last innings. We still don't know what where the Test match could have gone.
Yeah.
So. That's the only cause for concern. He has to somehow find a way to stay fit. With that action, he was always going to put extra pressure on his groin, on his lower back, on the right side of his back, etc. We all know that. But somehow he
Mhm.
has to come up with a way to stay fit.
Mhm.
And that would be great for India.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Jasprit Bumrah's record. I mean, he's taken 205 wickets at an average of 19.40. I mean, that is something that is
Exception.
just it's stratospheric level. It's like if you look at even the greatest of all bowlers who have picked up wickets. I mean, you look at Sydney Barnes, of course, but Sydney Barnes had an average of 16.43, but he could not eventually get into the 200 wicket category. So bowlers with 200 wickets or more, Jasprit Bumrah has the best
Best average among them.
average of all time. I was looking at Curtly Ambrose also. You mentioned about Curtly Ambrose. That guy picked up 405 wickets. So exactly 200 more than what Jasprit Bumrah has right now. And he all those 400 plus wickets that he picked up at an average of just about 20 point something. So I mean, that just goes to show how great Sir Curtly Ambrose was. So I mean, if Bumrah can get anywhere near to 400 wickets, that would be an incredible feat.
And like I said, he takes care of his fitness. He's going to go past 400. The way
Yeah.
he's doing right now, and he will get his chances all the time. There are people saying that he should be made the mainline captain in Test match cricket also. Then he gets to play all those Test matches. Now we are going to England for Test matches. That's another place where the pace bowlers really enjoy a lot. So there again, Jasprit Bumrah could come up with a large bunch of wickets. He should stay fit, and hopefully by the time next series comes up, he gets his main support at the other end in the form of Shami.
So, Sucharit, just staying with Bumrah, I'm sure we have seen the likes of when I started watching cricket, it was Javagal Srinath and Venkatesh Prasad in the 90s. Then Ajit Agarkar came for a while. Then we had Zahir Khan. Then we had Irfan Pathan for a while, Mohammad Shami, and all these bowlers. Ishant Sharma has come in before then, Jasprit Bumrah. So I mean, what a gem he is for us. We are from that era which has seen Indian cricket lack a third bowler in overseas condition, third or fourth fast bowler, or even probably a second bowler, someone who could support Javagal Srinath ably. And we tended to basically lose test matches because of our bowling. And to now see that one of our own bowlers, Jasprit Bumrah, has become such a fantastic bowler, it's an amazing feeling, isn't it?
It's a great feeling. I've seen even since the days of Kapil Dev that Kapil Dev used to be absolutely deadly at one end, but at the other end, you did not have enough support. The same happened with Javagal Srinath, and briefly Venkatesh Prasad showed some spark, but then he fizzled out. So uh, Jasprit Bumrah is that kind of a guy who can do a lot of damage on his own. And when he has good support at the other end, I think we can look at something even better. The one thing that I want to point out is I've played against pace bowlers who have a very normal classical action and pace bowlers who have an unusual action. Believe me, those who are having any kind of an unusual action, a lot of times you tend to read their trajectory and what exactly they are bowling a little late, a fraction of a second late. So with a conventional traditional action, you when he comes into bowl, you already know from the grip and everything this is going to be an outswinger. You know that it's falling short. You know that okay, so this is going to be on the off stump, so it's going to go
Mhm.
away from me. Let it go. But with any action like Jasprit Bumrah, or anyone who with an unusual action like Malinga, what happens is uh, after they release the ball, you suddenly know what is going to be. And since they have decent good pace, someone like Jasprit Bumrah, before you can adjust to it, the ball has already passed you and gone to the keeper, or maybe worse still, gone into your stumps. So yes, he's a character, and uh, he was bowling up to his potential in this series. And after those one or two altercations on the field also, we could feel that there was some frustration to him because he was not getting sufficient support from the other end, but he still managed to pick up all those wickets,
Yeah.
and he made all the difference for India.
Yeah, it's good that you point out the lack of sufficient support, because I wanted to now bring the shift the topic from Bumrah to the other bowlers. What went wrong, Sucharit, with Mohammad Siraj? Because a lot depended on him, especially with Mohammad Shami not being there. He was the only other experienced bowler in Australian conditions, and generally also he made his debut in 21. So it was 3 years now that he has been playing Test cricket. So we expected a lot more from him. So what went wrong with Siraj?
In fact, one by one, if we go with the bowlers who bowled at the other end, I think Harshit Rana was blooded too early into Test match cricket. He was still not good enough for Test match cricket. Frankly, he looks good, and he might be the bowler of the future for Test match cricket. But they should have allowed him to play one or two more seasons in Ranji Trophy, learn a lot more, and show his prowess. And then they could have tried him in some one or two easier Test series, and then taken him to Australia. But giving him a debut directly against the Australians, frankly, he did not look that great. If you look at Siraj, compared to the last Australian series and this one in Australia, the last time Siraj was bowling with fire. In this series, if you look at the speed gun, apart from one or two deliveries in the entire spell, that fire was lacking. Somewhere that pace is lacking. Secondly, the ball was moving really quick after it landed in the previous series. This series, that wasn't happening at all for Siraj. And thirdly, the radar. The radar had gone wrong. If you remember the last series, especially when he was bowling to the left-handers, he was consistently bowling it across their bodies in such a way that they did not know whether to let it go or to play at it. And
Mm.
this time to the left-handers also, he was bowling so much on the pads, Today in test match cricket, if you look bold on the pads to batsmen from 1 to 6 7 also, it's easy pickings for them, and they're not just going to score singles towards fine leg, they're going to hit you to boundaries and sixes, and that's where it all went wrong. The radar was all wrong. He was not getting it right, bowling too much on the legs of right-handers as well as left-handers. So th- somewhere I think he needs to focus once again when he practices on getting that radar right. Maybe he
Right.
needs to see a few videos of someone like Glenn Magra.
Yeah, I mean, although he did end up picking up quite a few wickets, but then
19 wickets he picked up, yes, but
yeah, but then his
came up
radar,
with a
as you
lot of
said, was
runs
not
also.
there. And if you look at Prasidh Krishna, I mean, how critical can you be? He played only one Test match, and even in that, in both innings, I think he picked up 3 wickets each. But what do you have to say about his performance?
He
Do you
looked
think
much
that
better.
he could have been given a chance earlier?
Absolutely, absolutely. He looked a lot better than Harshit Rana. And I think even if they wanted to try Harshit Rana, they could have done it a little later in the series and asked him to just follow the game from the
Mhm.
pavilion, the first 1 or 2 or 3 test matches. But that did not happen. Prasidh Krishna, he has pace. He has bounce. He's tall. He's a bit wiry also. So the zip that we call off the track, he's getting that. We have seen him bowl on Indian flat decks also and getting a lot of zip and carry to the wicket keeper. So if he was there, I think he should have been tried first. They tried him in the last test match, and you saw not just because he picked wickets. I'm not saying this just because he picked three each in both the innings. I'm saying this because he looked to be troubling the batsman almost in every over, at least 1 or 2 balls. Whoever he was bowling to, it looked like he was not making it easy for the batsman. With Siraj, they look far more comfortable while playing him. I
Yeah,
think
and
Prasidh Krishna is someone they should support a lot more.
they should support a lot more. And how about Akashdeep? Because I feel Sucharit, when he played that England series and even against Bangladesh in the home series and against New Zealand, he looked pretty good on Indian tracks. So I was expecting him to be a lot better on the Australian tracks. Yes, he did not get the luck many times. I think a few catches were dropped. Innumerable times he missed the edge of the bat. But again, I mean, at the end of the day, Suchrit, we all look at number of wickets, and he was not penetrative enough. Would you agree to that?
He was not penetrative enough, and the other thing is because he lacks a bit in pace. What happens is 1 or 2 occasions I saw Smith or even Head or any of the other batsmen, they even they got when they got into an error, they were able to correct themselves. So at the last moment, they could open their bat maybe and let the ball fall in front of the gully rather than carrying it to him. And they could do all of that because they had that extra fraction of a second to do it. So if
Hmm.
Akashdeep could somehow develop a few yards more pace off the track, I think he would be a very good option. Then he's good. And at the current pace, I don't think he's going to be too difficult for most of the top order batsmen around the world. I don't think
Right.
so.
Right. Great. So we've spoken about India's batting. We've spoken about the two superstars and how their futures look like. We've spoken about India's bowling, about Jasprit Bumrah and others. So Charit, now looking ahead, I mean, before we look ahead, we'd just like to wrap up this particular BGT with your 2 or 3 key turning points which turned the series around. What would those turning points be?
I think one big turning point would be the one in Melbourne. You've got them 95 for 6 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And then that drop catch, and then that big partnership. I think that really hurt. And
Hmm.
not just that it hurt, but it somehow gave that confidence to the Australians, telling them that yes, we also can bat. If you notice, they have also not scored a lot of 500s and 600s in the series. So many times they also got out pretty early.
Hmm.
And on a few occasions, they were, 3 down 70, 6 down 96. Those situations came up. But that particular situation in Melbourne, I think that was a big turning point. And another slightly lesser in ranking would be that atrocious shot of Rishabh Pant at a moment when that should not have been done. That was not the moment. Okay, he can argue that I am an aggressive batsman, that this is my natural game. But sometimes in Test match cricket, you have to really curb and control your natural instincts to go from good to greatness, from goodness to greatness. So that was expected of him, that on that occasion, that kind of a shot, that again was according to me a turning point clearly, because
Are
otherwise
you
who
talking
knows.
about the first innings shot or the second innings shot?
The first things
First innings,
when
yeah.
he
Mm,
had already made that mistake and he still went for it,
yeah.
and he got out, holding out to third man, and it really looked bad. It looked bad, and it sort of again gave a message to the opposition that when this guy comes in, we have got a chance.
I
You
mean, it's
don't want to
interesting,
give that
Sucharit.
message to
Yeah,
Australians.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting. We haven't spoken much about Pant because that just shows. I mean, that he didn't do anything of great substance in the series apart from playing that knock of 60 in the very last innings. And even then, I feel that he got out at the wrong time. Unfortunately, I mean, for us, when Travis Head has looked in his elements, he never got out at the wrong time. He
Yeah.
got out at a time when he had done enough damage to the Indians. So I guess we expected, we hoped Pant to do something similar, but again, it was just not meant to be, I guess.
And
But
remember, even Travis Head is basically an aggressive batsman.
yeah,
So even he could have argued that, I'm an aggressive batsman. It's my natural game, is stroke making, and sometimes I get out even when the side needs me to stay on the wicket. No, he said to himself maybe that, okay, I know I play a lot more aggressively, but these guys are bowling well. Bumrah at one end, it's becoming very difficult. So sometimes he used to play it out. Now
yeah.
that's something that you expected from Rishabh Pant in batting. One good thing was, after his horrible accident and the way he has come out of it, Rishabh Pant, it's an inspiring story. And one good thing that has happened after that, whatever training he has done, I think after his accident, and especially in this series, he kept wickets a lot better.
Hmm.
Earlier, he used to look a little dodgy in some of the collections that he did, especially with spinners bowling. But this time, he looked a lot more assured and confident when he kept wickets even to the spinners. So, to paceman, he was always decent enough
Hmm.
behind the wickets. But this time, he looked better again with spinners
Yeah.
bowling. So, that was a good part. But with batting, I think that's one thing he would have to work on. A
A
big
word on
realization.
Yashasvi Jaiswal, Sucharit, because before the series started, there were question marks about whether he could actually replicate what he did on Indian tracks in Australia. I think so. So he goes back with his head held high.
He was absolutely a star for us in this series. There is no doubt about that. Yashasvi Jaiswal, when he was playing in India on these tracks and he was getting the runs, he was getting the big hundreds also. One or two people were still doubting and saying, okay, wait, don't still call him a great star for the future of Indian Test cricket. Wait, because he still has to play these kinds of knocks in Australia, in England, in South Africa, etc. But we still are awaiting what he would do in South Africa or England. But the indications look really good, because these Australian wickets, even some of the
Hmm.
Australian players and former players have agreed that some of them were absolutely deadly to bat on. The one in Perth, the one in Sydney, especially, they really. Someone like Michael Slater said that I've never seen a Sydney wicket like this in my entire lifetime, and he has played a lot on that ground. So yes, the wickets were such, the conditions were such that it was never easy to play. Stark, Cummins bowling, Boland did really well on their part. Hazelwood, wherever he got the chance, he did well. So with this kind of a bowling attack on those tracks, Yashasvi Jaiswal got good runs. That first 100 itself, it was a brilliant knock, and it gives us a lot of confidence to say that if this is the kind of technique and temperament he has, who knows? He might click even in places like South Africa and England also. He looks like a good find for India for the future, even in Test match cricket.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Sucharit. And I think as we come towards the end of this podcast, just coming back to Gautam Gambhir, how much more time do you think you would give him if you were the chief selector? Do you think that probably the India England series in the mid year would be probably a line in the sand moment for him?
I think so, because you have to understand that India, when it comes to cricket, we are a talent surplus nation.
Mm,
You want opening batsmen, there are a few who are plundering runs in the Ranji Trophy. You want more pace bowlers, there are guys who are getting a lot of wickets in there. So, not just the players, but even in the coaching and technical staff, there are people who have done really well and waiting in the wings. They want to be Team India coaches or assistant coaches, etc. So Gautam Gambhir and his team of coaches, they have to really think a lot, because I think they can't be given too much of time when so many good staff members are waiting in the wings to take up their positions,
Hmm.
and we would like to try them also if this is not succeeding. So I would, if I was the selector, I would say maybe give him one more series, that is the England series. It's also going to be a long series, so if he can do something brilliant over there as a coach, then we can show some more confidence in him, or we'll have to then think of an alternative.
Okay, great. I think we have covered quite a lot, Sucharit, in today's show. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope that someone from the BCCI would be listening to this conversation and can take input from the various thoughts that you have given, Sucharit. So thank you so much for being on this show, and I hope to have you again sometime in the future.
It's always wonderful talking to you, and it's wonderful to be on this show. And I'm not just saying this as a formality, but I really mean it. And I'm saying this to all your viewers, that I hope that I can come back to the show and share some of the thoughts further on the various formats of the game. And as for India's perspective, I just hope that some much needed changes would be done, and they would all go back to their drawing boards, work on the errors that they did during the BGT, and who knows, as we go to England, we might pick up some really big wins over there.
Well, hoping for the same. Thanks, Sucharit. And thank you to all my viewers at the SNS Cricket Diaries. I hope you have found this video wonderful. I've done a long piece after quite a while, so I hope to be regular on this. So thank you so much. Until the next time, see you. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.